Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
We're here in the new studio. This is the first Farm for Fun recording that we've done in here. We got a pleasure to have a guest virtually. Can't wait till we have the first party.
Yeah. This feels like a deposition. Like there's nothing on the walls. It's just like, state your name, spell your name, where you're from.
You just witnessed a shooting across the street. Now they're bringing you in for questioning.
Yeah. So we're going to hopefully have a little more fun. But hopefully the next time you see us, there'll be some more stuff. It'll probably be incremental as we go. But
it's kind of the way the podcast is built itself. Is it just a little piece at a time?
I literally was on my way to Dave's because that's where we've been recording. Mm-hmm. And Tanner's like, no, it's at the new studio. I'm like, oh, dang. Okay, so here we go.
Dang. You got to rip the Band-Aid off. But
it feels a little rushed.
Let's see if you can do an introduction in the new studio.
You know what you need in here? A prompter.
Teleprompter.
A teleprompter.
Yeah.
Big-ass TV.
I'm Ron Burgundy?
Yeah, but there's a...
Dang it, who typed a question?
Ron Burgundy?
This is the Farm for Profit Podcast.
Go and yourself. Farm Talk World.
I like that.
First one in the new studio. Ready? Gotta wait for that beat to drop. Today on the Farm for Fun show, we meet up with a fellow pig farmer from the neighboring state. To my left. To my right? Depends on which way you're looking at the map, but they're probably more of a left state than a right state. He's been missing from the socials lately due to a busy harvest season and a long fall, but we are here to bring him back in. He is huge. He must be a huge wildlife lover because he drives a cleaner combine and loves to feed them. He's a big-time advocate for our industry. He boasts 10,000 followers on Facebook and 23,000 followers on TikTok. Please welcome from the once great state of Illinois, Mr. Chad Bell, a.k.a. Bell Family Farms.
State of Illinois.
Man. Are
Lots
we
of just
just
jabs
getting all the slams out of the way right away, or what?
Yep, that's the quota. There's no more for the rest of the show.
Mr. Rob Sharkey put out a podcast this week interviewing an Iowan, and his show was full of Iowa slams.
Oh,
so
really?
We have got.
I thought he was the one that coined the term once great state of Illinois.
We are going to ruin this show. It's going to be worse than having a Nebraska guest.
Oh, my.
On.
So, Chad, what is going on, buddy?
Well, right now it's raining outside, so not a lot of outdoor work being done. And we're done with harvest, clearly, being almost Christmas. So we're just kind of finally taking a breather after harvest and post-harvest field work and tax planning and all that stuff that comes with being a farmer. So it's finally time to wind down a little bit.
Yeah. I saw you didn't get dressed up for the show. I told him he had to do it in his underwear, in his uniform.
If you guys want that, I could do that pretty quick.
I did see those
I say
TikToks.
that, yeah, because I'm pretty sure one of the biggest TikToks, or maybe it was one of the first TikToks I saw of you, was in your underwear in a hog barn.
You saw the biggest part of Chad.
The biggest part.
Well, yeah, probably, and the smallest.
And the smallest. Oh man!
But yeah, that was a good. I had that idea rolling around in my head for. It didn't take too long to really get that ball in motion, and I just knew I would trigger somebody on there, and somebody would think that I was actually serious and take it to heart, and it did exactly what I thought it would do.
Yeah, TikToks with the pigs aren't that. It's kind of fun. No one's gonna walk in on you. Filming this awkward TikTok.
Yeah.
The pigs don't judge. When you're filming a TikTok in the shop and your dad walks in, it's just kind of like, it just doesn't feel right.
I'm sure all they talk about is you to the spiders, like Babe or whichever or Charlotte.
Oh, yeah, Charlotte.
Yep.
It's like, could you believe that he thinks this is actually funny? And they're just talking to each other after you leave.
Yeah. So let's wind all the way back. Chad, give us, where are you from? And what do you do on your farm?
Well, I am from the once great state of Illinois. I am in Mercer County, Viola to be exact. We border the Mississippi River, so I guess if we ever get into a spot where we can annex into Iowa, it would be pretty easy and somewhat seamless to do that. So I farm here in the eastern part of Mercer County. I've been farming full time since 2013, so just past 10 years full time farming. Farm with my dad. He's primarily out of the operation as far as day to day stuff. So it's pretty much me managing the farm. I grow corn, soybeans, a little bit of poverty grass, some wheat, and finished some pigs for a local neighbor here within the county. And so do a lot of cover cropping as well. So I kind of have a lot of things going on the farm, and I serve off the farm on a local co-op board and serve as the county farm bureau president. So a lot of things going on outside of the farm as well.
That's a full plate.
What did you do before 2013? You said you went full time in 2013.
Yep. So I graduated from college, the other ISU, Illinois State, here in the great state, and went to work full time for the local co-op that I serve on the board for, and then I was farming kind of part time on the side as well. And then 2013 rolled around, and I guess rewind slightly, 2011, my dad was diagnosed with cancer, and so he went through chemo, radiation, and a 7-hour surgery that year. And it was just kind of time for him to slow down. And I think he realized he wanted to do other things besides farm. And that was when he saw that I was perfectly capable of running the farm, and he didn't need to be around every day doing the day-to-day and managing the operation. So I stepped in full-time 2013.
So do you still have help from your dad?
Oh yeah. Yep. He still helps me spring and fall, and outside of the busy season, he kind of comes and goes as he pleases. And him and my mom like to travel, and they deserve that, being both retired. Or my mom is officially retired, and I consider my dad kind of semi-retired since he's still around, but he's kind of got his own thing going on as well.
How's his cancer?
Good. So when he was diagnosed, there was a 20% chance, 15 to 20% chance of survival. And I don't remember the percentage of once it got taken care of, that there was a high likelihood it could come back within the first 5 years. And that was obviously over 10 years ago, and been good since then. So I guess we're in the clear right now.
Good. Yeah, you don't know how nervous I was asking that question when he talks about cancer. And then I say, does he still help you now?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yep. So he's perfectly fine, good health, considering everything that he's went through. And you know, it is part of my story that I tell, that led me to where I'm at right now. So, I mean, he faced 1,000 times more adversity than I did going through what he did with the cancer. And, I just was lucky that I was able to step in, and that I was wanting to farm, and that just helped bring me back into the farm full time.
You got kids running around too, so I imagine there's a woman in there too. How'd that come about?
So I actually met my wife back in 2006 at college. She was a year younger than me. I was in the Alpha Gamma Rho AGR fraternity house on ISU campus, and I lived with several guys that went to her high school, and so she came over to visit them. And I guess to be honest, and she knows this story, so it's perfectly fine for me to even say it, but when I first met her, I absolutely did not like her. I just could not. And then I guess her persistence, it took about a year, and she won me over, and then we've been together ever since. So
so she was the pursuer.
Yeah, I guess I was busy not really paying attention much to her. I was busy doing my own college thing, and I guess she was persistent, and eventually she got me.
Yeah, why does this girl keep showing up?
What
Yeah, I mean,
what was
honestly,
it that
there-
won you over? What, there had to be something.
She
No,
brought the plaque
I
book.
really don't.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I guess the funny story, I guess you could say, was our first kiss was in the AGR men's bathroom. So I mean, that's
Oh boy.
that
Sounds hot and
that's
heavy.
our high class story in a fraternity.
That's good.
But yeah, we've been married since 2011, and got 2 kids. My daughter Amelia, she's 10. My son Charlie, he's 7. So they're 4th grade and 2nd grade.
Nice.
When did you get married in 2011? November?
No, it was July.
Okay.
Yep, July.
2011 was a good year.
Is that when you got married?
Yeah. I wanted to get married 11/11/11. We actually got married on the 19th of November because it would have been way easier.
16th of November.
It would have been way easier to remember 11/11/11.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What year did you
7,
graduate ISU?
7/16/11. I graduated from ISU in 2008.
Okay. So we got like him and I kind of got a similar trajectory. I graduated from the right ISU in 2009 and went to work for a co-op. And
You weren't AGR though, were you?
I was not AGR. No.
He was probably a farmhouse.
No, I wanted out of town. I lived in the dorms for either a half a year or a year, and I could not wait to get out of town. And my uncle had a farm about 20 minutes away, and I loved that because I lived on the farm. And then when I wanted to go to town to the AGR house and party with my friends, I could, and I always had a couch to stay on, but I didn't have to deal with the city life every day. Couldn't stand it. So.
Did they think you were a gay Joe Dirt? Because that's what I keep getting in my
Gay
head.
Joe Dirt.
I got the patchy growing in here. I got the flamboyant
It's the
shirt. I'm just thinking gay Joe Dirt.
Well, we just got these shirts in
No, I'm just
from
kidding.
our friend
I love
Sherry at Steinbauer. Sent us 2 boxes of
They
shirts
are a
from
conversation starter. Says
Australia.
it right
and
on the
they're
back.
actually custom farm for profit.
Oh, ding dong.
So you guys have your pile out there, so you can get your gay shirts on too.
All right. I'm good.
These are our happy shirts.
These are our happy shirts.
But anyway, so how? I mean, obviously your dad had cancer. How was that transition back to the farm? Was it just like you guys both knew, or did you have to put up a hog barn? How did that work?
So back then, his cancer scare, like I said, was 2011, and I came back to the farm in 2013 full time. It was more or less, we didn't really talk too much about it. It was more like we just kind of both knew that it was time, and so we didn't have these long, in-depth conversations or anything about how this was going to work. And so I stepped into the operation, and I think the first year we started maybe a 50-50 type arrangement. I can't remember now exactly how we did it, but we didn't really change the operation much. I didn't add anything at that time. We still had a cow-calf herd at that moment, and that was kind of Dad's thing. I was more interested in the row crop side, and so I kind of started taking over the management and operations of that and the grain marketing. Really from the day that I set foot back on the farm as a full-time farmer for income, that was pretty much the day that I just took over all of the management of the farm. That was very seamless, and unlike the stereotypical father-son butt heads relationship, we have that in the busy season. Everyone's getting worn down and tempers a little thin and everything, but we never really had the arguments on, I want to do it my way, Dad wants to do it his way. It was just, he pretty much said, he didn't say it, but he demonstrated that this is your farm to run, and go ahead and run it the way you feel.
Do you have any brothers and sisters?
I have one sister. She is off the farm, but she lives here locally. Her husband, so my brother-in-law, he works for Nutrien, so she's still very much connected to the ag business, even though she's not necessarily interested in the farm directly.
So she was fine with you coming back and taking over the reins.
Yeah, she was going to school and becoming a social worker is not the exact title, but she did that kind of work or that line of work for in schools, and so she was pretty busy with that, and that farming was never anything that she was particularly interested in, and so it just made sense for me to come back to the farm and take over.
Okay. So how did you change cattle out for hogs?
Why?
And why? Yeah, why? But
yeah, that's a valid question. So back in the forever up until about 98, we always had cattle and hogs, and the farm at that time was my grandfather, who's now gone, and my dad and my uncle. They all three farmed together, and early to mid 2000s, my grandfather passed away in a car accident, and so my dad and uncle. That was when I was kind of getting old enough to realize things weren't quite getting along like I always thought, and so our farm kind of went through a transition where we split into two operations, and so it was my dad and myself, and then my cousin and uncle. And I guess circling finally back to the question at hand, but we always had cattle and hogs up until about 98. Got out of the hogs, kept with cattle. We were feeding cattle, had cow calf, so I mean we were doing a little bit of everything. And finally, about 2017. My dad was still managing the cow-calf herd, and that was about the time where, with the lower grain prices, decided to jump back into hogs. There was an opportunity that presented itself for building a barn for the family inside the county, and our fences were getting pretty rough shape, and so if I wanted to stay with the cow-calf, mom and dad were wanting to get out just so they, were further kind of divested from the farm, and fences were in need of a lot of repair, so it was going to take a lot of time and a lot of money to kind of bring things back to where I would have liked to see it. And jumping into the pigs at that time, and at the same time I was getting on the Gold Star board and Farm Bureau board, so I had a lot of moving parts going on, and the cattle side was just kind of the easy one to get out of, I guess.
okay.
Well, before I transition into my question, we got to remember to thank our listeners. We love all of our listeners, even the new ones that just picked us up. We need more reviews. We need more ways to expand our audience, and one way of doing that for us is leaving your reviews and your comments and sharing whatever gets posted. But we've got one from Apple Podcasts. It's actually been a little while since we've gotten a new one on Apple Podcasts. So that's probably
everyone
a place.
listens on Spotify.
That's true. It's our fastest growing network. It is.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And our listener review today says, you guys are crazy. Good stuff. Thanks to John Deere and Sukup for supporting them. Great stuff. The Iowa Land guy, Doug Bear.
Man, that's a good review right there.
It's a great review. And yeah, we do thank John Deere and Sukup for supporting us. And we do great stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff, too.
Yeah. Please go leave us some reviews. Our friends over at Barn Talk are kicking our butts in that department. Love those guys. We've got Chad Bell on today. They've got DeSantis on today.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do?
We stay.
Take what you can get.
We've successfully stayed away from politics.
Yeah, we've actually turned several down. So Nikki Haley and
Tom
Scott.
Yeah.
And pretty sure I actually met DeSantis at an Iowa State football game, and he was actually really interested in the podcast. Was like, "Oh, you podcast?" I was introduced as the best ag podcast there is,
which is true,
and by a local politician. And he's like, "Oh," and he asked me all about it. So I'm pretty sure his people Googled the best podcasts, and they came up with Barn Talk.
Oh. We've got to talk to our SEO person.
No, they're good dudes over there. But no, we do need to get our reviews up. So please.
I'm pretty sure Kyle was going to clip that so Barn Talk can use it.
Yeah,
it's gonna be-
probably. They
All
offer packages and give meat away and stuff. So we're not doing any of that. So we
got to get into that.
Figure out.
We can give some of your meat away.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to get back into this. So but when you transitioned from your dad to you, did he also transition the whole Gleaner Combine thing, or is that a you decision?
That was so actually when our farm went through our split between my dad and uncle, we kind of inherited a John Deere 9510 combine, which we'd always run John Deere's, and then we got rid of that, and I think the first Gleaner combine that Dad bought was either an R52 or an R62. And the reason that he bought that combine was he had always been intrigued with Gleaner combines. And so that was kind of when he was in the position to make his own buying decisions, didn't have to talk to his brother or figure things out with his brother. He just bought it, and that's kind of how we got started with Gleaner combines. And so we've had the R52 or 62, and then we went to an R65 and then an S67. And we just completed our second year with the S96. And so we're on Gleaner number 4 currently.
Wow.
And you still like them?
Yeah. So the S67 that we had, when we were looking to move that one 2 years ago, my dad was bound and determined that he wanted a Deere combine again. And I guess I wanted to give Gleaner one more shot. And so we ended up with a Gleaner combine once again. And I guess I wasn't really partial to our dealer by any means, but the problem is with Gleaners, at least in our area, they're very few, very far between. Dealership network's pretty slim. So we have one dealer, and their closest location is 35 minutes if we're hauling ass. And I think I can go to 3 different John Deere dealerships and a total of 7 or 8 probably locations within that same amount of time. So I run John Deere tractors primarily, and I'm sure at some point, just due to the dealer network, that I'll probably end up back in a John Deere combine at some point, but
I missed
not
it.
this year.
I was looking up a stat. What year was it you went from the John Deere to the Gleaner?
Probably would have been 2009 or prior.
See what the pheasant population has done since 2009 in Mercer County, Illinois, Dave?
Oh my goodness, it has. It's gone up.
Oh, wow.
Just
well,
single-handedly. Good job.
thank you.
You could spin it and say it's your cover crops.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have acceptable grain loss, but I did a custom cover crop seeding job for a neighbor here this fall, and not using our combine as a cover crop seeder, but an actual cover crop seeder planter. And going through some of his corn stalk fields, I was very impressed with the Deere combine. I thought that they just grind it up and spit it out, but I wasn't seeing any whole kernels. But we have plenty of that, so I don't know. Maybe I should be looking at the Deere combine a little harder.
I just keep thinking of the song. So he said when the partnership dissolved, heard that song, I'm going through the big D and don't mean Dallas.
Yeah.
I can't believe what the judge had to tell us. I got the Gleaner, she got the Palace.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's good.
That's a good song. I really like that one.
No.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's got a different meaning for me.
Now it's
too.
got a whole different.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I still had a question on the hog barn. You built a hog barn, but it wasn't with an integrator. It was for a neighbor. Normally, new hog barns are one of the big integrators in the hog industry. How did that come about?
So I mean, I guess you could maybe consider them an integrator. They work with about 50 different farmers here in primarily Mercer County and a little bit in eastern Iowa. But at the time, I guess 2017 was the end of 2017 is when I got the barn built. So this whole process started probably 7 or 8 months prior, or even more actually. Friend of mine had an open house for his barn. And the people that I built the barn for, they were looking to expand at that time, and so they were really looking for farmers locally, and so they helped host an open house to look at a barn, and went and looked at it and thought, I'd kind of like to build a barn. And at that time, grain prices were kind of depressed, and so I was, I guess, looking for another stream of income, and that just kind of fit the bill, I guess, and been raising pigs ever since for them.
Wean to finish, feeder to finish?
Wean to finish. That's been a challenge a little bit. Just the first couple of years, I guess, especially managing the workload of weaned pigs, getting them started off right and setting the barn up. That's a lot of work to get ready for them. And otherwise, you get through the first couple weeks or month, and I've had really good pigs the last couple of years, and so get through the weaned pig phase and been smooth sailing ever since, ever after, pretty much.
That is always a relief when you get them to the feeder pig stage and you get a good group of pigs, and it's just like cruise control. That is nice. When you have to fight them the whole turn, that
I feel
sucks.
like there's more certainty in hogs than cattle, because your margins on the front end, your feed on the front end. Like with integrators, what they're going to buy them for, correct?
Because we don't own the pigs.
Versus cattle, you're playing the market all the time.
We're like custom farming compared to normally cattle. Guys own the cows, so they might have a little bit more upside potential, but they got a lot more downside.
Yeah.
Where we're just basically a hired hand at the end of the day that just is renting them space.
Mm-hmm.
So
I call myself a pig janitor because I'm just in there cleaning up after them.
right.
That's good.
It's a big learning curve. I went through the same thing, not the same thing. I bought an existing site in 2013, but family grew up with hogs, showing hogs, cattle, all that kind of stuff. But it's anyone can take care of pigs after a couple months of learning it, but learning the process of the barns and feed motors going out and feed lines breaking and handling manure and all that, that takes a couple years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. Yep. Just understanding the functions of the building, and it never fails. I don't have equipment malfunctions on the weekend or something like that. And if gotta have somebody to come out and work on something, it just never fails. It's always the weekend.
Yeah, knock on wood. We're approaching one of those weekends that it always happens on.
I've already got it scheduled.
I suppose I should have not said that.
In 2017, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, in 2017,
You guys are cute.
this is the worst part about virtual. In 2017,
you go. No, you go.
Yeah.
You go.
In 2017, you built this barn. It's 6 years past that. I'm assuming you didn't have $1 million to pay cash for it. What was your terms at that point? Did you have a 10-year payoff period, or what were you looking at?
So I actually, so between the two notes that I have, it'll all be paid off within year 15. Is what the loans are scheduled for. So I was able to take advantage of the Young Farmer loan program through FSA here in Illinois, and maybe it's the same program nationwide, every state. But I was on my last year of eligibility for that loan program, and so instead of losing out on some of that really low interest money, I guess is another driving factor of building the barn. But that payoff through FSA, I want to say, is either 10 or 12 years. I can't remember, but really dirt cheap interest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially compared to today.
Right.
Oh yeah. I mean, I want to say it's 2% or 2.25% or something,
Sure.
Next to nothing.
Right. I think mine was 1.5%.
It was low.
But then what I realized after the fact, what they don't tell you is, you got 10 years as a beginning farmer, But just because you're not a beginning farmer anymore doesn't mean they don't have good programs. Like you can go, that was a 1.5%. You can go get a 2.5% or a 3% loan, even if you're not a beginning farmer. So, yeah, they kind of try to make you force your hand a little bit in that 10 years.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, before we jump into what you've been doing recently, we play a game with every one of our guests, and we're going to play Would You Rather. I copy and pasted some of these would you rathers, so we're going to have to amend for those of you that are reading, because obviously the first two don't make any sense for Chad. But you understand the premise of would you rather, right, Chad? We give you two items. You got to pick which one you'd rather have.
No, I think the first two actually do. I want a third party's opinion.
Okay, you do the first one.
All right. So this isn't your state, but we need to know what our sister state says to our left, right? Iowa corn or Nebraska corn?
Iowa corn.
Hey,
There we
all
go.
right.
There we go.
Settled it. That's all it took.
Yep.
First show of
You
2024.
heard it here first.
Settled it. We don't have to debate this the rest of the year. We got the answer.
Yep.
We did it in January.
I mean,
Got it?
if it wasn't would you rather, I would have said neither. I would have said Illinois.
That's right. Smart man follows
So-
the rules.
But
Would you
I
rather?
had to make that choice.
Would you rather cheer for the Iowa State Cyclones or the Iowa Hawkeyes?
Oh, no question. ISU.
There we
There you go. See, we are.
Yeah.
I mean, University of Iowa is not an ag school, so why?
That's true.
Ding dong.
See,
mean,
why is it
what-
so hard
what would I do that
for so
for?
many people? Like all these ag people, Iowa. It's because they grew up in the 80s and the 90s when Iowa was winning.
Yeah.
And they just
America
wanted to put
needs farmers. America
yeah.
already has farmers.
Yeah,
Yep.
actually helping farmers.
America already has farmers. We're going to make that a hat.
They have. That's what Iowa State does it compared to the
Now we need
A&F.
doctors and lawyers too.
What about steak or a pork chop?
Oh boy.
I take both right now.
Double stack.
I guess I'm gonna have to default steak or go with steak because steak, it just hits different for me. I don't know what it is. Or if I'm gonna make a pork chop at my house, I'll probably go with pork chop every time. But steak, I don't know. I'll just go with steak. We'll leave it at that.
Good choice.
You choose the same?
I would choose. I'm definitely a go-to steak guy. But if I've had a really rough day in the pigs or one of them bit me, like I will have a pork chop and then just feel like I'm getting
It's
back.
a spiteful pork chop.
Yes. It's yep.
Your sacrificial pig,
Yeah.
is that the one that
Yeah.
you choose to
I
turn
am
into pork
eating
chop
your
that
cousin
night?
tonight.
Yeah, exactly. You just hope that there's some sympathy
Yeah.
pain in the one that just bit you.
Yeah, but I do love pork as far like a perfectly cooked pork chop or like the versatility of pork for I got a smoker, smoking barbecue, like that kind of stuff. Can't go wrong.
Isn't steak
Yeah,
recognized?
I will not buy a pork chop at a restaurant. It seems like any time that I've gotten one there, it's been overcooked, dry, so it just disappoints me every time. And at least a steak, I can tell them I want it rare, and it'll get cooked medium rare, and that's good enough for me.
Isn't steak kind of recognized as like the Louis Vuitton of all meats? Like it's the top.
It's Cadillac.
Yeah.
It's Cadillac.
Yes, I would have chose Cadillac as my descriptive word
It's
rather than a Louis Vuitton.
It's like the best handbag.
Dave Tanner, Cadillac.
Well, I don't know. The Cadillac's the top car brand right now. You have to switch it.
All right. Would you rather have a cocktail or a beer?
Beer,
Beer.
100%.
What kind of beer?
No question.
What's the choice?
Well, if I have to choose one, it's going to be Busch Light, but usually it's just whatever's available.
Cold.
Cold is good.
Cold, yep. Well, cold preferably, but whatever.
Even a warm Busch Light is fine sometimes.
I'm not too picky.
Yeah.
All right, you can answer this one for you and or your wife. Would you rather go on a beach vacation or to a national park?
So my answer, I think we'll go beach, and I think I could safely say that for both of us.
Fair enough.
Where's the Super Bowl at this year? I'll have to look that up.
Is it in Vegas?
I don't know. Where was the Super Bowl
I don't
at
know either.
last year, Chad?
I don't know. I can tell you who's going to be there, and that's the Niners.
I don't know.
So
You don't know. You were in a commercial for the Super Bowl.
Hey Siri, where's the Super Bowl at this year?
Well, I didn't get to go watch the Super Bowl in person. I had to watch it on TV like everybody else.
Paradise, Nevada.
Paradise, Nevada.
Yeah, it's at Vegas.
So it's not next to a beach, and it's not in a national forest
Well, it's kind
or
of
a national
sandy.
park.
Yeah, you go to the Hoover Dam. I mean,
Yeah.
So tell us about how you got into a Super Bowl commercial, because those sound expensive, or at least people tell us they're expensive.
Well, I guess you guys can clearly see that I have a face for TV, and so I mean that was just an easy decision for them to make. But no, I don't know. I guess the commercial was through Illinois Farm Families, so it's the coalition of all the different commodity groups and beef and pork groups in Illinois. And I don't know. I guess I think that I've volunteered a lot of my time with Illinois Farm Bureau and even within pork producers. And usually when someone asks me to do something, I typically say yes. And so apparently I was the easiest sucker that they could probably get to say yes to something like that. And otherwise, I don't really have a good answer besides apparently they just were looking for somebody that they knew would say yes to about anything they asked for, and that was me.
Mm-hmm. So what'd you have to do? What was the commercial?
So the commercial was Illinois Farm Families, we are the 96. And so the messaging behind that is 96% of all the farms in Illinois are family owned and operated. And so I guess my family and we were the poster childs for what a family farm looks like here in Illinois. You know, like my mom and dad and my wife and I and our kids, and then my sister and brother-in-law and their little boys. So that's the kind of the big makeup of our farm, and we're the stereotypical farm family here in Illinois.
How did you, or when did you start feeling the need that you needed to be on these boards? You said you're on the co-op board and Farm Bureau, was that right?
coalition.
Yep. The Mercer County Farm Bureau and local co-op. I guess years ago, probably when I first got out of college and was working, and even I guess the beginning of farming full time, my mentality was, I don't know if my mentality was this way, but I always thought, well, you know, there's a lot of people out there doing good things, advocating for agriculture. You know, why? I'll just let them do it, because I wasn't comfortable talking to politicians or really talking to other people about about advocating for agriculture. And so it was just kind of something that I brushed aside. And then I was asked to, my neighbor was getting on to the State Farm Bureau board, the IAA board, and he knew that I was farming full time, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you join the Illinois Farm Bureau Young Leaders Committee, the State Young Leader Committee," because they were looking for somebody to take the next term. And I said, "Well, I don't really know anything about Farm Bureau or anything about what I'd be involved in." And he said, "Well, I think you'd be good. You're young and you have the passion for agriculture. Why don't you try to take it kind of to the next level?" And so that's kind of how I got started with any of these organizations, and it just kind of snowballed from there. That people asked me to be involved with things because I was one of the probably younger farmers in the area, full-time farming, and so that I was probably an easy target to replace the 75-year-old farmer that's retiring from farming or just getting kicked off the board because that's the age limit.
Right. Have you been able to have much success on the board? Because I asked that because I actually got on our local county Farm Bureau board as well. Not the county I lived in, the county that our farm's in, and it was filled with a lot of older people as well. And I'd try to raise my hand, say they let me talk, but then at the end of the day, nope, this is how we've always done it, and it just kind of the same old. And then so I did my term and I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. It wasn't for me. So have you had better success on your boards with them listening?
Yeah, so like the County Farm Bureau Board, the year I got on in 2017, and I want to say about half of the board was new at that time. There was a lot of transition that happened, and a lot of the oncoming board members, were my age or slightly older. And so I would say, if I had to, without doing the math, the average age of our board is mid 40s.
Oh, nice.
Less than 50 by far. And I think the oldest member that we have on our county board is maybe 55. So I guess I have not really been a part of a board that's largely made up of the older farmers, that this is the way we're doing it. And
That's good.
you young whippersnapper, keep your mouth shut over there. You don't know anything.
I don't think I've heard young whippersnapper in a while.
The reason I use that term, I got a high school kid, or several high school kids, that help me on the farm and loading pigs and stuff like that. And obviously they're 17, 18 years old, and I'm double their age. I'm 37. And I just make it a point to be old timey with them. Like, you young whippersnappers, you don't know what it was like growing up when I was your age, and
we had to load pigs in the snow.
Them young lads and everything. I just try to bring it back to them.
That's pretty
They
good.
enjoy it.
That is good.
Well, you certainly keep pace with some of these young lads when you're using your social media platforms. That's definitely been something that I see you've got a little bit of a passion for, and kind of like the way Corey started off the show is you're not afraid to show it all, the good, the bad, the not so much covered, Chad.
Just your underwear.
Not so much covered.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really set out to have an influence on social media. I guess I got on Facebook in 2008 when it first started, or 2004, I guess. Illinois State was one of the universities that it was open, kind of at the beginning. So I signed up for it, and I always liked taking pictures from around the farm and having them on my computer in my dorm room at college, just because I obviously missed home being on the farm, and a lot of the makeup of the university was people from Chicago. And so I kind of, I guess, made it a point a little bit to have a lot of those pictures on my computer, just to start with, to maybe spark a conversation about what it is that we do on the farm. And I just kept sharing pictures, and I guess started doing videos and TikToks and stuff more in more recent years. And I guess it just kind of fell into place that I decided to use social media as a platform to just show my farm and help promote agriculture through entertainment, give some entertainment value at times, but also try to actually give some teachable content as well.
Very nice. So I said in the beginning, in my intro as well, you've kind of been not around lately, been busy.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that just busy, or what, you just get burnt out, or what?
A combination of both, I guess. It started out as being busy with harvest. I don't know how the corn was over in Iowa, but ours was pretty good. And, when you harvest 250 to 280 bushel corn, the grain cart has to move faster. The semis have to move faster. The whole process just needs to be
more efficient,
sped up a little bit to keep the efficiency up. And so there was just literally no time to do anything harvest video wise. And I was also getting new weaned pigs in first part of November when we were trying to finish up harvest. And so I was loading out through October. So just the whole month of October and November, and now we're almost all the way through December, pretty much got through harvest and kind of lost the motivation, I guess, to get back into it. I was still busy enough that I just didn't really want to put the time into it, but
Right.
I guess maybe now's a good time to get back into it.
Right. Because we all know that, once you've been out for a while and you try to get back in, the algorithm's not in your favor, and you kind of got to start posting pretty consistently, if you get back into it. So it's just like that that cloud hanging over your head that's like, all right, now if I'm going to do this, I got to do this.
Got to go.
You know, and
Yep.
Yeah.
am I ready?
In the same boat.
Yeah.
So have you seen any benefit from social media?
I guess I've had a lot of people that even locally that have said you do a really good job on social media. Keep it up. And I'm like, well, I'm not really setting out to accomplish a whole lot. I'm not looking to get TikTok famous or do anything like that. I'm just trying to promote agriculture and show my farm, I guess, a little bit. And it's just one of those things that I just like doing, and it's not real for any real good reason, just like showing off the farm and trying to help the cause, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. You got any big plans for 2024? Resolutions or anything?
Not really. I don't plan too far ahead, so I tend to fly by the seat of my pants. So maybe January 1st I'll have some burning desire to accomplish, but I don't usually set too many goals because I don't know. I'm just not that kind of person, I guess, really.
That's the true answer of a hog farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
your day
hog chores.
I'm just trying to get by.
Yeah.
You could wake up and your day is going to be all completely different than what you'd planned on.
Yep.
So why make
Yeah.
plans?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'd like to get back into doing some TikToks again, but I suppose once I do a video or two, I'll be kind of back in the maybe swing of things of how to record some half-assed decent videos and go from there, but we'll see.
What about on the conservation side? You said you did a lot of cover crops. Was that something your dad did or something you brought, or how'd that go?
It was something that I started back in 2012, the year of the big drought. So that was a great time to look at growing something extra.
That takes more water.
But that needed water that it didn't have. I guess the reason I got into cover crops, or I really didn't have a reason why I got started. It was kind of the buzzword 10 plus years ago, just kind of coming to the surface. And it just kind of sparked my interest of having something green growing in a landscape of brown, talking from fall to spring. And so I harvested some drought corn, the last day of August that summer, and slung on some cereal rye and radishes on about 15 acres. And I can't remember what hurricane it was that year, but it came up from the Gulf that night and got a nice 2 inches of rain right on top of that freshly sown seed. And so I got to see something grow over winter, and the radishes and the rye. And then I guess I started to learn a little bit more about rye specifically and how it could be used for erosion control and water conservation, soil conservation, just all the kind of general benefits of it. And seeded some more the following year, and I guess by year 4, I think it was, I was 100% cover crops, and that's been kind of my goal ever since, is to cover crop every acre every year.
So what's the standard rotation? Are you doing the rye in front of soybeans, or how's that?
So up until this year, I've primarily done rye ahead of both corn and soybeans. And then this year, I guess a couple of years ago, I started growing some wheat just for another alternative or another way to try some different cover crops with rye, or with our growing season harvesting in October. We don't have a lot of options for cover crops at that point once we start talking post-harvest. And so I decided to try some wheat to give another opportunity to try some outside the box, I guess you could say, cover crops that don't normally get to in a corn and soybean rotation. But I saved some of the wheat from this harvest, and I slung out 4 acres going to corn next year. And so I kept the rye back for ahead of soybeans for next year.
So have you been able to find a market for the wheat that you grow?
Yeah, so I got a couple local markets. River Market is one of them, and then there is a wheat mill in Mendota, Illinois, north central Illinois, but that's solid hour and a half to 2 hour drive to get there. And so that was a market I used a couple of years ago just because the basis was so much better. It paid for the trucking and all that. But otherwise, there's CHS on the Mississippi near the Quad Cities is where I took what I didn't save back this summer.
Okay. I've always been curious. We've grown some rye on our farm, tried it out. It's not a standard practice, but wheat kind of has the same. You put it on the fall and, you harvest it in the spring or summer. But a lot of guys just, spray the rye to plant into it. But wheat's like $6 or $7, and rye is like 12 or 14. Does the rye root deeper or something, or
is it hardier?
Yeah. What?
Yeah. So I think in general, wheat isn't quite as winter hardy as rye, and the root system on cereal rye is much better. It's more fibrous, so it's better designed for erosion control.
Okay.
I think wheat probably does just fine, but if erosion control is one of your top priorities, that rye is probably the better option in those situations.
In your wheat, are you far enough south that you can get a double crop, do beans behind it, or not?
It would be pretty risky. So I have a neighbor that they grew some wheat this year for the first time, and then they double crop soybeans behind it. Some of them made 10 or 12 bushel, so not very good.
Yeah.
And others they made mid 40s, so
Okay.
They made it work. But typically around here, most people, granted, there's not a lot of wheat anyway in this area, but most people are just planting the wheat and then baling the straw and using it for bedding and maybe a place to spread some manure. But the acres of wheat are extremely limited in this area overall.
Okay.
Good.
Very cool.
Well, we're going to test out. We're going to mess around here, I think, in January, trying to figure out what our next question is going to be. You spend 4 years asking a payoff question every 4 months or every 6 months. You kind of run out of good ones. So you'll have to let us know, Chad, if you think this is a good question. But this spawned out of our Just a Jackson Thing episode of how you kind of revitalized the excitement in me for agriculture. Watching an 8-year-old kid, Chad, just be super pumped about farming. All things farming, everything from toys to actually running equipment. So what would you tell somebody who may have lost their passion or feel like they don't have that fire burning anymore?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Maybe
Corey,
a better.
why didn't you tell me to prepare for that one?
Because that's what it's meant to do.
Maybe it's better to phrase it this way. What gets you excited to go out and farm every day?
I guess it's really the only thing I know. I've thought about this many times of if there was some way that I was not able to farm physically, I was still alive but not physically able to farm, what would I do? And I don't have an answer. So, I'm not really interested. I don't really have a lot of interests outside of agriculture and farming. It's just always what I've done, and it's the only thing I know. So I don't know how to really answer that question because I don't really have any other alternative thoughts on what I do if I couldn't farm.
I think you'd go probably sit on more boards.
You'd just be a
Probably,
professional
or
board.
just be a full-time board member somewhere.
Yeah. There's people that do that.
That's good.
Yeah,
They get paid a lot of money.
I guess my philosophy on boards is to be on for 5 to 10 years and move on. There's other things that I would be interested in doing, serving in agriculture, that I don't want to just be a career board member, because I don't think that's necessarily fair to whatever you're representing on the board. And for a lot of times there's people chomping at the bit to get on some of these boards that don't have the opportunity. So
It's kind of like a career politician.
spend some time on there and get out.
Yep.
Let somebody else do it.
Yep.
Well, Chad, this has been a pleasure. We are excited to have you be our first Farm for Fun show of the new year of 2024. Super excited to get this studio customized, but thanks for joining us virtually and hanging out.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
It's
been fun.
Corey, what do you tell the listeners?
Crack a bush light. You deserve it.